This is the case of anterior wall MI. In this image, you find apical 4-chamber view and minimal pericardial effusion. Here also you can say, and this is the apical portion of the left ventricle is akinetic. So this is the case of anterior wall MI with minimal pericardial effusion. Whenever you see pericardial effusion, you have to rule out any rupture. So in this case, I try to find rupture. You can see how the pericardial space, you see the upper blue one is pericardial space, and this is the fluid coming into the right ventricle. Here you can see one flow, the rupture of apex near right ventricle. Again the same thing, pericardial effusion. You can find out pericardial effusion posterior to posterior wall of left ventricle. This is moderate mitral regurgitation. Obviously you can see all chambers of the heart are enlarged. You can see one flow that is red in color, that is the flow between left ventricle and pericardium. Between left ventricle and pericardium, that flow direction is from left ventricle to the pericardium, red in color. Here you can see the marker. So red in color means flow from left ventricle into pericardium. But that blood returns back into right ventricle. You can see flow blue in color. That means flow is coming from pericardial space into right ventricle, and blue in color. Flow is blue in color means flow is downward from pericardium to right ventricle. So blood ultimately going from left ventricle into pericardium and from pericardium into right ventricle. That is the mechanism. That is why, in spite of fluid going into pericardium from left ventricle, the pericardial effusion does not increase, doesn't remain same. This is the flow from left ventricle into pericardium. All chambers are enlarged. You can see the apical, this is the apical portion of left ventricle. Obviously apical portion looks hypokinetic in this parasternal long axis view. Your learning from this video is, whenever you find pericardial effusion in case of myocardial infarction, you have to rule out rupture. The rupture is likely finding in that case. Anterior wall MI, pericardial effusion. You can find out easily the pericardial effusion. All chambers are dilated. This is the rupture of right ventricle with rupture right ventricle apex, and that communication between pericardium and right ventricle. Blue in color means flow is from pericardium into right ventricle. You can see pericardial effusion in this still image. This is the case of left anterior descending artery territory infarction. Thank you.